Welcome to Crystal Palace, the second night of the Peugeot Talbot Games, dominated by the presence of two leading ladies. Hello, good evening. Well, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you who they are. Zola Budd and Mary Decker, of course, and we're not far away now from ending months of speculation and arguments. In less than half an hour, Zola Budd and Mary Decker come face to face over their Olympic distance, 3,000 metres. A race that just had to happen after the events in the Los Angeles Coliseum almost a year ago. Zola Budd running for Britain and Mary Decker, America's darling, their golden girl, clashed in an instant that's probably been replayed more than any other sporting moment. Mary Decker fell, hurt and angry. Zola Budd ran on but finished nowhere. A war of words followed, but now time has produced a much more balanced reaction.
Over the year, I've looked at the whole situation, and the way I look at every situation is something good has to come from a situation. Even if it's the most horrible experience you've ever had, something good has to come from it, whether you learn something very valuable or, something that's even more direct that is good. And I think after what happened at the Olympics and all of the publicity and all of the attention surrounding it, it has been good for women's athletics.
We have written to each other, and I think we've both realized that it will be best if we run against each other and forget the past.
It is a race that the British public, and in fact the public of the world in many ways, is really looking forward to. I mean, are you looking forward to it as much?
I'm really looking forward to have a good race, and I think the sooner the race is over, the better for both of us. And I think it will be an exciting race.
I don't know if it's you now, but I think that the media has helped create expectations that maybe she wasn't ready to live up to.
I don't read newspapers anymore, and I seldom watch television, and so I really don't. At the moment, I'm only living my life. I don't think about the newspapers or what the press would say.
Certainly, if I'd have had the setback she had, I would simply say, if I'm injured, or I'm not well, or I'm just not fit. That's one thing that I think she has control over. I mean, she's the person that has to run the race. I mean, they can't sort of wind her up and set her on the track and say, okay, this is where you run tonight. Running is an emotional thing. As well as being fit, you have to be psychologically and emotionally ready to do something. And I can't see how that can be if you're not into what you're doing.
I've trained very well this week, and I've done one of my best training sessions, so I'm confident that I can run well on Saturday.
I always expect to win my races, and what you expect is not always what happens, obviously, but you have to expect to win. If you have any chance of winning, you have to expect it.
I myself don't expect to win. I think if I can better my time, I will be very pleased, and I think that will be a consolation enough for me to only to better my time.
I don't think beating Zola Budd is what I'm after. I mean, as a matter of fact, I know that's not what I'm after. What I'm after is to win the race, whether it's to beat Zola Budd or Cornelia Berkey or Lynn Williams or anybody else in the race. My objective always is to win the race.
I've always run at my best when I've been beaten and when I've ran badly, so I think it would have been good if I had a good races, but I think I am confident that I can run well.
The talking will stop and the running will start at 9:15. That's when the 3,000 metres is due off. Before that, in fact, just as Zola looking very relaxed indeed. Zola, a very determined competitor beneath that exterior. Well, the race due off in, round about 10 minutes' time, so we've still got time now to compare the relative strengths and performances of those two girls. Zola Budd, the record-breaking teenager from Bloemfontein in South Africa, faces Mary Decker, currently the top female athlete in the United States. Their personal details show that Zola's 7 years younger, 19 compared to Mary's 26, 2 inches shorter at 5'4". Also, she's lighter, 105 pounds, that's 7.5 stone. Mary weighs in at 112 pounds, round about the 8 stone mark. Zola, controversially, is now a British citizen, based happily in Guildford, in Surrey, where she can move about freely, away from all the media pressure. Mary and her husband, the British discus thrower Richard Slaney, make their home in Eugene, Oregon. Mary now free of the injuries and personal problems that have punctuated her career. In terms of world status, Zola is the reigning world cross-country champion, a title she won superbly in Lisbon 4 months ago. Then she outclassed a quality field, including Norway's Ingrid Christensen and the American Kathy Branter. A really devastating performance, the highlight of Zola's career so far. Mary is a double world champion. In the 1983 World Championships in Helsinki, she won both the 1500 and 3000 meters titles, beating everyone, including the best of Eastern Europe.
And now Mary's head-to-head with Kasankina, two of the great women athletes, and Kasankina looks to have the legs. Brigitte Kraus, tall and powerful, is coming up on them as well, and suddenly another gear change as Mary Decker takes the world title. But Brigitte Kraus gets a silver medal, and in fifth place a gallant run by Wendy Sly, 8 minutes 34.62 seconds.
Zola only holds one British record, the 5,000 metres, ironically achieved in Helsinki, where she was badly beaten 2 weeks ago. In contrast, Mary holds 6 middle and long-distance American records, the 800, 1500, mile, 3, 5 and 10,000 metres. The girls' times for 3,000 metres, Zola's best is 8 minutes 37.5. This year, her fastest run was against the Czechs and French at Gateshead, where she recorded what was then the quickest time in the world this year.
Zola Budd, all out on her own and looking good. Physically and emotionally, it's been a difficult few weeks for Zola Budd, but again she has proved that she can overcome any barriers set in her way. And Zola Budd must be something like 100 metres ahead of Sargent, the French girl, and that's a decisive and very encouraging victory for Zola Budd, and it's achieved in the best time in the world this year.
Mary's best at 3,000 metres is 8 minutes 29.71. She's aiming for a personal best around 8:25 tonight, but she hasn't run over the distance at all this year. However, she's had a very impressive European tour so far. Mary looked strong and confident when she held off Britain's improving Kirsty McDermott to win this 800-metre race in fourth. Last weekend, she won over 1,500 metres in Paris. So now it's the head-to-head that had to happen. Mary and Zola moments away from exercising the ghost of Los Angeles. Face to face, the two girls then, and together now, and what a lovely touch, a handshake to take some of the tension out of the situation. Good to see that. Now, there's one British girl who feels a little bit hard done by because her achievement in Los Angeles just about forgotten after all the rumpus surrounding that final.
So Kuika, the Romanian, on her way to the gold medal, and Britain's Wendy Sly is safe in the silver medal position. But the real headlines will be made by those not amongst the medals. Mary Decker and Zola Budd involved in that controversial collision. Kuika, the Olympic champion then, and Wendy Sly gets the silver for Great Britain.
And I'm delighted that Wendy Sly has flown from America to be with us and join our commentary team tonight. Wendy, everyone around here is asking how the race is going to go. How do you feel it's going to go?
Well, I think Mary's in such superb shape at the moment that she can do nothing else but lead the race. She's best when she's out in front, and I think she'll try and dominate right from the gun. Zola, I think, will hang on and see perhaps how she feels in the middle of the race.
Yes. You see, everybody seems to be going for Mary. Do you really think it's as much of a one-horse race as that?
Well, Cornelia Berkey has been running very well and recently posted the best time of the year so far in Nice, I believe. So there could be a close race there too, and I think it's important that neither of them forget about the other people in the race. I'm sure they won't, though.
What about the tension of the situation? Who's that going to affect?
Well, I think because the race has been planned for such a long time that they're both very well prepared mentally and physically for this race, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And it's going to be interesting to hear from you as well in the commentary box. I'll send you up there now, otherwise you're going to miss the race.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, there we are then, as Wendy makes her way to the commentary box. The race is nearly with us now, and let's go and join our race commentator, Alan Parry.
Well, as Mary Decker herself has said, you cannot rewrite history, and what happened in the 1984 Olympic Games cannot be changed. And yet, this is the rematch that millions of people have wanted to see. Decker has said that she wants a performance that will satisfy her tonight, and that, in her own phrase, is a world-class performance. There's already been a minor psychological victory to Mary before the race, because there was some confusion between the two camps as to exactly who was going to be in the race as a pacemaker. Louise Romo, the American 800-meter runner, was in fact initially amongst the starters. But Mary said she didn't want her there. She was happy to take the pace herself. Zola Budd's camp thought that Romo would be in there, and maybe even at this stage still don't know. But Mary Decker's annoyance at the Olympic incident was summed up by her own phrase. I think, she said, I may forgive, but I'll never forget. And although the majority of people dismissed that angry reaction in Los Angeles as a petulant outburst, their enormous frustration has to be understood. Zola Budd, though, on current form, taking into account her previous best performances, has little hope of winning, and yet she has a remarkable record for bouncing back from disappointments. In February, anti-apartheid demonstrators forced her to drop out of the National Cross-Country Championships, but a few weeks later she took on the best in the World Cross-Country Championships in Lisbon and beat them all. She ran badly in her first track race of this year in Britain, in Belfast, but 5 days later ran what was then the best time in the world this year up at Gateshead. She's had that poor run in Helsinki, so can she bounce back again tonight? Well, really, one man in the crowd, an interested spectator, perhaps more so than any others, in the fawn-coloured jacket, the bald man there in the centre of the picture, Frank Budd, Zola's father. And Zola, we understand, doesn't even realise that he's here. And the family split between Mr. and Mrs. Budd is just one of the many psychological problems that this 19-year-old girl has had to deal with in a year that would be traumatic for someone much older and much more mature even than her. And those problems must never be forgotten. But as Wendy Sly has said, it's not just a race between two people, this, and how many times in head-to-head confrontations have we seen a surprise name go on and win. But quite honestly, Slaney, she is now married to Richard Slaney on the New Year's Day this year, has to be the outstanding favourite. Interesting to see Cornelia Berkey, 31-year-old, who now runs for Switzerland, also in this field. Berkey, a great friend of Zola. Berkey also born in South Africa, and in the winter, at the time when Zola was seriously reconsidering returning to her native Bloemfontein in South Africa, that's Berkey, number 5, and giving up international sport, it was Berkey and several other close friends who persuaded her not to do that, to come back to the country of her adopted citizenship.